My wife and I have been married for 4 years, but we don't have children yet. She always says that we are just getting on our feet, meaning we are still building a stable foundation for our life together, financially and emotionally, before taking on more responsibility. She came home from work one evening and announced that she was being sent away on a business trip for a week. She is a determined woman who gets her way without much objection. She packed her bags and I walked her to the train station. She kissed me goodbye and told me to take care of myself, promising to call every evening. After saying goodbye to my wife, I decided to visit her mother, Martha, who lived about 200 kilometers away. We had always gotten along well. Martha, as I said, is pleasant company for me. She is a woman of strong character and an equally strong figure, graceful in all the right places, the kind I have always admired. She is also an amazing cook, which is not surprising given her love of food. She cooks in a way that makes you want to come back for more, and I often found myself savoring every bite of her dishes. I grabbed a quick bite to eat at her place before we headed out to run errands. During the trip, Martha and I had a nice conversation. She is an intelligent woman and easy to talk to about everything from favorite books to life quirks. At one point, she had to go to the bathroom, so I pulled over near the woods. As she got out of the car, I happened to glance in the rearview mirror and found myself admiring her figure. My thoughts wandered, and I felt guilty, but I couldn't help it. The dress accentuated her figure gracefully, drawing attention to her figure but not catching my eye. When Martha returned to the car, she gave me a knowing smile. She seemed to understand. After all, she is a wise woman who has no trouble reading people. I've often noticed how she senses the mood in a room or picks up on unspoken tensions. Whether it was family gatherings or casual conversations, Martha had an amazing ability to say just the right thing to lighten the mood or calm a person down. Her insight made her not only approachable, but deeply respected by everyone around her. The rest of the trip passed without incident, though I avoided looking directly at her, focusing on the road and idle conversation. In the evening, we reached her house. She went straight to the shower and I relaxed in front of the TV and eventually dozed off. In the dream, I found myself in a surreal situation as Martha took my tie and led me to her room. The dream was so vivid that I didn't want to wake up. Her perfume was in the air, and her voice was a low whisper. When I finally woke up, it was night. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting shadows on the walls. I decided to check on Martha. Looking into the guest room, I saw her sleeping on her stomach. My imagination took over, and I hesitated at the door, torn between my fantasies and my common sense. But the former won out in my mind. I quietly walked over to her and gently ran my hand down her back. She hissed but didn't wake up. I was glad and slipped my hand in just there. What I felt filled me with love. She woke up and whispered, "What are you doing, Andrew?" "Look at me, Danger," I said, frowning. "Look at me, we both have danger." "Martha," I replied, "I'm giving you back what you've given me all these past years." She sighed, but didn't resist. "It's not what I wanted," she muttered, but her eyes said otherwise. "What will your wife say? What will people think?" I silenced her by focusing on the moment. When we finished sorting things out, I'll call it that, you know what I mean, we sat together, her head resting on my shoulder. I had conflicting emotions bubbling in my head, guilt and a strange sense of comfort. I couldn't help but wonder what this would do to the delicate balance of our family. Her breathing slowed and she made lazy patterns on my skin, and her thoughts seemed to be far away. The next morning I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen for water. To my surprise, Martha had prepared a thick breakfast and was sitting at the table with a satisfied smile. "Good morning, Andrew. How did you sleep?" she asked in a warm tone. "Better than I have in years," I replied, winking at her. She laughed, clearly pleased, and handed me a plate of pancakes drizzled with syrup. Her hospitality felt more than just kindness. It was a tacit acknowledgement of what we now had in common. "It's going to be a wonderful week," she said, eyes sparkling. She poured herself another cup of coffee and leaned back in her chair, looking completely at ease. I didn't bother to argue. After all, some secrets are better kept between those who share them. But even thinking about it, I couldn't escape the feeling that such a fragile truth would eventually demand a reckoning. Martha's words stayed in my head, their implications both exciting and dangerous. The days ahead promised to be filled with moments we would both carry in silence, a shared secret neither of us would ever forget.